Good morning, everybody here in Waterloo. And good morning to everybody watching. Maybe you're in Westside, maybe you're online. Good morning to everybody who's at Kitchener East and Kitchener South and at the Chatham campus. My name's Pete. I'm one of the pastors here. And today, sometimes we're in like a sermon series and they all go together. Today is a one-off sermon called Hidden in Plain Sight. And what I want to do to begin this morning is to try to diagnose, perhaps, how many of you are feeling in this cultural moment that we find ourselves in. I want to paint for you three different buckets, three different, perhaps, questions that you have, things that you're feeling, and I'm hoping that you will identify with at least one of them, and if you identify with all three of them, well then this sermon is really for you. But the first one is this. Have you ever had this experience? You've got a moment to yourself, and so you sit down, and you bring out your phone, because you got to check something real quick. So you check it. But then let me just open that. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, look what they're doing. Oh, I'll click a video. Yeah, I'll click a video. Oh, another video. And that's interesting, too. Oh, wow. I should really close that. Maybe I'll just open up the same thing again. And what was supposed to be a quick moment becomes hours. What was supposed to be, I just wanted to check the weather, and now I'm learning about how medieval peasants make cheese. And I'm like, have you had this experience? And when you're done, you started and the sun was out, and now it's dark. And you don't reflect on the hours that you just spent thinking, what a great expenditure of my finite life. You don't think, oh, I've really learned a lot. You think, you just kind of feel gross. You're like, oh, I feel like I got sucked into something and that my life was stolen from me in the past couple hours. Anybody else had that experience, perhaps? Hopefully it's not just me. Anybody have this experience that you've worked really hard and you've gotten yourself to a place where finances are stable? In fact, finances are good. And so you're able to begin to buy the things that were supposed to make you happy. You got the big TV and you're able to buy whatever food you want and put it in the fridge. You're able to buy a car that's nicer than a car that you ever imagined that you would have. And you're able to do the stuff, you're able to do the vacation stuff. You're able to get on a plane and go to some place. And in the beginning, when you started to step into this new world, it was this is what I was working so hard for. This is it. Okay, life sucked, but now life is great because I got all the stuff and I get to go to all the cool places. And in the beginning, it was I think I figured it out. But you've been living that way for a little while, and it seems like the shine of those things keeps getting duller and duller. And what used to excite you now just is kind of yeah, this is my house, this is my stuff, that's my car. Oh yeah, Christmas we're going here, and it's gonna be and none of it is bringing you the happiness or joy that you thought it would. I'm wondering if there's people here this morning that feel this, that have this problem. Does life feel elusive? Meaning does the joy feel, does happiness feel elusive? I thought I knew where to find it, but I'm there now and it's not there. And it seems like there are cultural things like a phone that are designed to steal my life. And so I'm wondering, where can life be found? That's bucket number one. Bucket number two is for people that are asking this question or some version of it. where to find God. Where can I find God? Perhaps you're here because you're new and you're like, I wonder if those Christian people know where God is. Maybe you're like a spiritual seeker of sorts and you're like, I've tried some other things and I'm wondering, now I'm trying this thing and I'm wondering, can you guys show me where to find God? Can you teach me how to experience God? Like, is God in this room right now? Is there a part later on when this guy shuts up that like God will show up? You're wondering, like, you've come here, you are the God people, you claim to know God, where will I find him? And you're wondering where we're going to point you. Or maybe you've been a follower of Jesus for a long time, and yet you still have this question. Maybe you've had this experience that in the beginning, the music transported you to another world. And when we sang in rooms like this, it was just like, it feels like the presence of God is descending upon us. But now it don't feel like that anymore. Like I couldn't wait for Sunday. And now Sunday's just kind of like, I don't know, whatever. Songs. I've heard those songs before. You used to be so excited to learn something new, to read your Bible or to listen to a podcast, and you'd get new information and you'd be like, oh, I'm learning, I'm growing, I feel like God is moving and present and transforming me in my life. But now learning is just like, whatever, I feel like I've learned enough. And so you're a follower of Jesus, and yet you're wondering, where can I find God? Because when I started off here, it felt like God was all around, and now it seems like either God moved or I moved, and I'm not sure which one. And I don't know where to go to experience that presence again, but I'm so hungry to experience that presence again. That's bucket number 2. And bucket number 3 is for people who are asking this question. What about the aliens? Guys, there's aliens? Apparently there's aliens, and apparently it's my job to be preparing you for the aliens. I don't know what your feeds are like when you're scrolling through social media, but I get the pastor feed, and so I get a whole bunch of other pastors, usually like Americans, that are telling me, you better get your people ready for the aliens. If you're in a church that's not getting you ready for the aliens, you got to leave that church. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, well, I think I'm the guy. I think I'm supposed to be doing that, getting you ready for the aliens. Because maybe the aliens aren't aliens, they're demons. Maybe they're demons. Oh my goodness. And all of this gets packaged into a sort of general anxiety and paranoia that is really fundamentally asking this question, what about the return of Jesus? People concerned with like the things going on in the world, are they telling us that the return of Jesus is closer? Well, I can tell you it's closer. It's closer than it was when I started talking today. It's always closer, but is it soon? And if it's really soon, what do we need to do to get ready for it? Perhaps you're in that third bucket of, I hear all of these theories about what's happening, and I'm very concerned, am I doing what I'm supposed to do to get ready for the return of Jesus? Here's what I'm going to do with the rest of my time this morning. I'm going to solve all of these problems. We are going to answer all of these problems, but first, we got to do some work. We got to go through some scriptures and pick up a couple themes along the way, and then at the end of the sermon, we will come back to these 3 questions, problems, feelings that you might have. The first place we have to go this morning is to the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, there is a group of people called the prophets. Prophets, don't think fortune tellers, don't think people that are predicting the future, think people who are speaking on behalf of God to his people. And so the prophets come and they have a message from God for his people, and oftentimes, the majority of the time, they are telling God's people what is happening currently. Like it is basically an analysis of how they're doing at being God's people. And there is one theme in particular that gets repeated over and over and over throughout the prophets, something that makes God extremely angry, something that he is extremely passionate about, and that is justice. When his people are not taking care of the needs of the poor and the widow and the orphan and the refugee, those 4 categories get repeated over and over: poor, widow, orphan, refugee. When his people are not taking care of the vulnerable among them, God is extremely angry. And the language that is used is jarring. And so we're going to read some of it because it's fun to get a little rocked this morning. So you ready to get a little rocked, like smacked in the face by God? Well, it's coming. Amos chapter 5. This is God speaking through Amos. I despise your religious festivals. Your assemblies are a stench to me. Let's get everybody together. God's going to love it. And God's like, smells like a room of grade 8 boys in here after gym class. Ugh. Why? Even though you bring me burnt offerings and grain offerings, I won't accept them. Though you bring choice fellowship offerings, I will have no regard for them. You all got together and you brought all this stuff to God. And God's like, that's not what I want. Away with the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps. We just spent like 25 minutes singing. Apparently, God in this passage, when the people are singing, he's like, that's not what I'm looking for. Away with the songs. I don't want to listen to your music. Well, then what do you want? Justice? Let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. When his people aren't being a people of justice, taking care of the vulnerable among them, then all that other stuff that they do, that they think, like, this is what you want, God, right? You want us to get together in big groups? You must love when we get together in big groups. And then when we sing songs and we're like, it's like, oh, you sound so nice. God's like, I don't need anything from you. I don't need those offerings. I'm not up there collecting all the stuff you're bringing me, being like, I needed all this stuff. I need to get all your stuff. I made it all. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for you to be my people who are a people of justice. This is a theme throughout the Old Testament, throughout the prophets that speak on behalf of God. This is one example. I'll give you one more just so that you know that it's not just Amos having a bad day speaking on behalf of God. Isaiah says this, stop bringing meaningless offerings. Your incense is detestable to me. New moons and Sabbaths and convocations, I cannot bear your worthless assemblies. So before we had stinky assemblies, now we got worthless ones. Worthless, stinky assemblies. Your new moon feasts and your appointed festivals, I hate them with all my being. God, tell us how you really feel. I hate them with all my being. They have become a burden to me, and I'm weary of bearing them. You thought you didn't like coming to church. God really hates coming to some churches. When you spread out your hands in prayer, I hide my eyes from you. Even when you offer many prayers, I'm not listening because your hands are full of blood. Even when you pray to me, I'm not listening because you are not doing the things that I commanded you to do. That's a pretty heavy thought. You are not going to have a vertical relationship with God if the horizontal relationship between you and other humans is off. I'm not listening to your prayers. So here's what you should do. Wash and make yourselves clean. Take your evil deeds out of my sight. Stop doing wrong and learn to do right. To seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow. God cares far more about the causes of justice, about the orphan and the widow and the poor and the refugee, than he does that we would gather together and sing songs and bring offerings to him. I don't know that he could make it any more clear than in the passages that we just read. But let's take a step back for a second and ask the question, why does God care so much? Because as Western people living in a civilization founded upon Judeo-Christian ethics, it can be easy to assume that, well, of course that's what God's like. Isn't that what everyone, regardless of whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, doesn't everyone just assume that God wants us to take care of the vulnerable? Isn't that just like par for the course of being a religious person? Well, no, it's not. You can find other religions and other ways of life that don't hold that as a value. So why does God hold that as such a value? Why does he care so much? Hold that question in your mind and we'll answer it in just a second. We're going to go to another passage where we're going to find God with a similar passion about something. A similar passion about his people not doing something. In the book of Exodus, God has rescued his people from Egypt. He's rescued them out of one culture, and then he's going to begin to form them into his people. Now remember, these are people that barely know anything about God. Like if you ask these people who got rescued from Egypt, like, what's your God like? They'd be like, I don't know, like my grandpa Abraham, my grandpa Isaac, like they knew him, they talked to him, and now we're just kind of part of that family. Like they didn't know a lot about him. And so God will bring his people out into the wilderness at the base of a mountain, and he'll begin to teach them about who he is. And in teaching them about who he is, he'll be teaching them about how to be his people. And one of the foundational ways that he does this is through his law, through his commands, through what you've probably heard of, the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments aren't God just with like an arbitrary list of, here's a bunch of stuff I want you to do and not do. The 10 Commandments are a revelation of who God is and who he wants his people to be. So with that in mind, we're going to read the second commandment. The second commandment goes like this. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven, above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. Don't make an image, or don't make an idol. This would have been popular in the culture that they just came from, the culture of Egypt. Make idols, make images of all kinds of stuff. Make them of the gods, make them of the creatures, make them of the powers. Make things that you can, so that you can limit the powers, so that you can control them, so that you can personalize them. You can have this thing. You can pray to it. Well, this is what he says next. So don't make these things, and do not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. I, the Lord your God, I'm only one God. You're used to coming from a place where there's all kinds of gods. There's all kinds of localized deities. There's a God over there, and there's a God over there, and there's a God of the sun, and the God of the moon, and the God of the rain, and the God of the crops, and the God of sex, and the God of violence. And you're used to that world. Now I'm pulling you into a new reality where I am the only God, and I don't want you to make an image of me. And I don't want you to make an image of anything else or bow down to it. For I'm a jealous God. And then he says this, which can be a little bit confusing. I'm a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. On the face of this, sometimes it reads like, so if my great-great-grandfather makes this image, then like something's going to be passed down to me, and I may or may not have even known about what my grandfather was up to. Likely, the best interpretation of this that I've read is that this is being spoken to a culture in which families and generations live together under a common tent in a common camp. And so if your great-great-grandfather who lived with you made idols, made images, that would then be passed down to you as this is what God is like, this is how we worship. And God is saying, I have a fundamentally different way that I want you to relate to me, and it is not through this image culture. And then there's an interesting back and forth between this can affect like negatively 3 to 4 generations, but if you get it right, 1,000 generations of those who love and keep my commandments. So this sort of like, if it goes wrong, like I will limit how wrong it could go. But if it goes right, I mean, it's just kind of endless, the blessing that you will receive by knowing who God truly is. In this command, I think God is concerned with 2 things primarily. He's concerned that we would distort who he is and how we are to relate to him. But the second one we often miss, and it's this. That if we were to create images of God, if we were to create other idols for God, we would be replacing the one thing on the planet that God did put his image in. Humans. In Genesis chapter 1, when God creates humans, he says that he creates us in his image. Male and female, he creates us in his image. So the picture in Genesis is that God creates, it's almost like creation is his temple. And then in his temple, he places his icon, his image bearers. And so when he says, don't make another image, don't make an image of me or of anything else, he's like, don't try to replace the one place on the planet where I want you to see my image. Don't try to make something that you can limit and control and personalize. Instead, I want you to find my image in the face of one another. Which is why God gets so angry, in the words of the prophets, when we're not taking care of each other. How are you not taking care of your fellow image bearers? And how can you claim to bear my image if you don't bear my likeness, my love, my compassion, my grace, my mercy? God is so passionate about those things because the project is to have a physical world that bears his image. And when he sees the ones placed on the planet to bear his image, to be a reflection of who he is into the world, when he sees us not being like him, he's like, this will ruin the entire project of the creation that he dreams and longs for. And all of this, I think, gets summed up in one of Jesus' teachings. At the end of Matthew chapter 25, Jesus is talking about the end of things. He's talking about when he will eventually return. And I think that he sums up all of these themes in this parable. If you're not familiar with parables, the parables are ways that they're stories that Jesus makes up, that he tells in order to teach us deeper truths. They're stories to kind of open up our minds and tell us things at an angle that hits differently so that we would hear something that maybe was familiar in a new way, and it would cut us to the heart and create transformation. And so we're going to read this parable of Jesus found in Matthew chapter 25. Jesus says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory, remember from a couple weeks ago, Son of Man, that's Jesus' favorite term for himself. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. So the setting is the return of Jesus. When Jesus returns, what's going to happen? All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. So the king will return and he will begin to separate people, sheep and the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. Sounds pretty good to be a sheep. Why are the sheep getting welcomed into the kingdom? Why are they getting welcomed into this? You have a picture of a feast, a picture of the new creation. They're being welcomed. At this point, you're like, how do I be a sheep? What did the sheep do? For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. And I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. And I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? Which, by the way, if Jesus is welcoming you into his kingdom, don't ask questions. Right? Like, it's pretty risky that they're asking a question. Jesus is like, you come into my kingdom, my eternal kingdom. It's going to be wonderful. And they're like, are you sure it's us? I don't think we did the stuff that you said that we did. Like, it's kind of crazy that they're saying that. Jesus, when did we do all this stuff? Because we don't remember doing all. We would remember if we fed you. You'd remember if you fed Jesus, right? If Jesus was in jail and you went to visit Jesus in jail, that's a memory you'd have. And they're like, when did we do that? And the king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. What about the goats? Then he'll say to those on his left, the goats, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. Well, I don't want to be a goat. What happened? What did the goats do or not do? What's going on with the goats? For I was hungry and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison and you did not look after me. And they, just like the sheep, will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or needing clothes or sick and or in prison and did not help you? They're like, Jesus, King, if we saw you, we definitely would have helped. If we saw you, Jesus, hungry, I would have given you something to eat. If I saw you in prison, I would have went to visit you. If I saw you, I would have done it. So you're saying that I saw that and I didn't help you? And the king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. And then they will go away to eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. A couple observations in this parable. One, if we only had this parable by itself, it would be easy to take it as a teaching for, boy, we better start racking up as much good works as we can. We better start doing all the things that he had on that list so that when he comes back, he's going to be like, did you do a lot of good stuff? Because the more good stuff you did, the more likely that you get to be a sheep. And if you didn't do enough good stuff, then you're probably a goat. If we only had this parable, it would be easy to come to that conclusion. But we don't just have this parable. We have the entire New Testament by which we can interpret what this parable is teaching us. And it's not teaching us that it is by our good works that we are saved. It is not teaching us by, if you did enough, if you did just enough, then you get to be a sheep. And if you didn't do enough, then you're a goat. Using the rest of the New Testament to translate this, I think we could say it this way, that the sheep, well, first of all, both categories didn't even know that they were doing good or doing bad. They both have this sort of like shocked, we did that? We helped you? We ignored you? Like they're both shocked. So what were their actions? Their actions were just the fruit of who they were. They were just being who they were. And so you could say it this way, that for the sheep, their service to the least of these was a sign of an internal transformation. It was a sign of a relationship with God that had transformed them, so much so that they walked in a way that God would walk in the world, taking care of the least of these, taking care of the hungry and the thirsty and the stranger and the naked and the sick and the imprisoned. It's about an internal change. And the goats didn't have that change, and so they walked around the world just apparently caring for themselves and ignoring all of those in need around them. But here's the part that I want to focus on. There's so much in this parable that we could spend a whole series on probably. That Jesus doesn't say in this parable that when you helped the least of these, it was as if you were helping me. He doesn't say as if. He doesn't say it was like you were helping me. He says you did it for me. Which means, by way of this parable, Jesus wants us to see that God has a unique way that he identifies with the least of these. He has a unique way in which his presence is present with those who are suffering. We could say it this way, that often church people like to talk about how we will bring the presence of Jesus out into the world. And in some sense, you could do a sermon on that. But through this parable, Jesus is saying, you're not bringing the presence, you're going out into the world to meet my presence. And so when you think of things like the Big Serve, it's not just, oh, we want to bring the love of Jesus out into the world. What if it's, I want to go out into the world to meet, to find the presence of Jesus among the least of these? Because Jesus doesn't say, it's as if you did it for me. He says, you did it for me. And so, back to our 3 questions from the beginning. Perhaps you feel like life is elusive because you have turned your life's focus inward. It has become all about you. In our culture, we don't tend to make idols that are external. We tend to turn ourselves into idols that we worship. We worship ourselves, and and inherently, a life that is turned inward will be empty. Because life is not found as we become more and more selfish. It is found as we become more and more selfless. Life is found as we give our lives away. Lose your life, and you will find that you gain a better life, that you get your life back enhanced. Perhaps you've been asking this question, where can I find God? I thought I found him in this room. I used to find him in this room. I used to find him in my private devotional time, and it seems like it's not there in the same way anymore. Well, perhaps God has hidden himself from you because he is trying to push you out into the world where you will experience his presence among the least of these. You're asking the question, what about the return of Jesus? It's a perennial question, by the way. I'm not that old, and yet I've seen it come and go many times. Oh, look at this verse, and then look at this earthquake, and oh, look at this and that, and this war and that. We've had so many cycles of empires and emperors and world wars and missile threats. It just keeps going and going and going. There is always a reason to believe that it's coming soon. We need to get ready. I don't know about all that. I don't know about the aliens and what that means. I don't know if the aliens are demons. I don't know if there's going to be lizard people walking among us. I don't know what to do with all that. Here's what I know. When the King returns, he wants to find us among the least of these. So don't worry about all the stuff you're reading online. He's not going to gather up all the conspiracy theorists at the end. He's like, the conspiracy theorists will be on my right, and I will tell them, well done, you figured it out. And the people who were blind and the woke sheep, they're going to be on the left. He doesn't say that. He's not looking for the people that are figuring out decoding the world. He's like, can you just do the basic thing I asked you to do? Be my people who care about justice. I want to return and find you among the least of these. And so all of this talking this morning can be summed up in this one thing. If you have one or all three of these problems, what should you do? You should serve. When you serve, you will find life. When you serve, you will meet God. When you serve, you will be ready for the return of Jesus. Serve. If you were paying attention at all to anything going around this morning, to the bumper, to the announcements, you know where I'm going next. 2 weeks from now, we kick off the Big Serve. It is a catalyst for people to step into serving, to experience something that maybe you haven't experienced before, and hopefully become a servant as a way of life. But it's a huge project that we do. There's over 60 ways you can get involved. Last year, we had over 600 people be involved. This year, we're hoping to blow those numbers out of the water. But you can go on our website. It's super simple. Go on our website. You'll see the days of the week. You'll see all the different opportunities described. There's so many ways that you can serve. And I simply invite you, if you have one of these problems, get involved, serve, go and meet the presence of Jesus among the least of these. We're going to end this morning by taking communion together. And so if you're a follower of Jesus, as we pass the elements out, as we sing this next song, we invite you to take the elements and hold on to them, and then we'll take them together. If you're not a follower of Jesus yet, we're so glad that you are with us. Like, truly, we love that you are here. But we would ask that until the time that you would say that you're a follower of Jesus, that you just let those elements pass you by and just experience the atmosphere with us. But we wanted to do communion today as a way to prepare us for the Big Serve, as a way to reflect on the one who came to serve us, the one who came when we were hungry and thirsty, the one who came when we were lost, when we were naked, when we were sick, when we were enslaved. And he came to heal us and feed us and clothe us and set us free. So as you hold the elements as we sing this next song, reflect on Jesus, the one who came to serve us. Would you stand? Stay seated. It's easier to get the elements. I made that mistake once before. Let's pray though, before we sing. God, we're looking for life. We're looking for purpose. We're looking for your presence. it seems pretty clear through the words of Scripture that where we can find you, where we can be on the right path, where we can hear the words, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," is when we serve. And so would you call us once again, call us back, call us for the first time. May the words that we heard from the prophets this morning cut to our heart and make us realize that it's nice to gather, it's nice to sing, but if we are not people of justice, people who are among the poor and the orphan and the widow and the refugee, then none of this is of any interest to you. Jesus, we thank you for the model that your life and death are to us of what it means to serve, what it means to sacrifice. We trust that you'll be with us, speaking to us by the power of your Spirit as we sing. Amen.